The ship shuddered violently as another blast hit its hull. Zara gripped the control panel, her four-fingered hands trembling inside her damaged armor. Warning lights flashed across her view screen. The Krell had found her, just as she feared they would. "Engine failure imminent," the ship's computer announced in its flat voice. "Life support systems compromised." Zara didn't need the computer to tell her that. She could feel her armor's systems failing too. The specialized combat suit that protected her fragile Thalaxian body was already operating at 30% capacity. Without it functioning properly, she wouldn't survive long outside her homeworld's environment. She checked the navigation display. A small mining planet appeared ahead, barely a dot on the star charts, but her only hope. The humans called it Frontier's Edge. Zara had never met a human before, only heard stories about the strange bipedal species that had recently joined the Galactic Coalition. Many Thalaxians considered them primitive, unpredictable. Right now, she had no choice but to risk an emergency landing near their settlement. The ship entered the planet's atmosphere at the wrong angle. Flames licked at the viewports as the small vessel burned its way down. Zara tried to steer toward a flat area outside the human colony, but the controls had become sluggish and unresponsive. "Brace for impact," the computer advised seconds before. The ship slammed into the rocky terrain. Metal twisted and screeched. Pain shot through Zara's body as her harness dug into her chest. The armor absorbed most of the impact, but she felt something crack inside her chest cavity. Her helmet display flickered, then went dark. The emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow throughout the crushed cockpit. Survival protocol kicked in. Zara unstrapped herself and crawled toward the emergency exit. Her normally graceful movements were now clumsy, as her armor's joint servos failed one by one. The hatch refused to open automatically, forcing her to manually override it with her remaining strength. Cold air rushed in as the hatch finally popped open. Zara dragged herself out of the wreckage, her armor scraping against jagged metal. She fell to the ground outside, breathing heavily as her suit's air filters struggled to process the planet's atmosphere into something her lungs could handle. In the distance, lights from the human settlement glowed against the darkening sky. It might as well have been on another planet. Her armor's power levels dropped to 15%. Without functioning armor, the alien air would slowly poison her. Zara activated her emergency beacon, though she knew help would never arrive in time. The data crystal containing the intelligence about Krell fleet movements felt heavy in the compartment at her side. All those lives depending on her mission, and she had failed them. She tried to stand, managed to take 3 steps, then collapsed, again. The rocky ground felt cold beneath her. 10% power remained in her armor systems. Her vision blurred as the suit struggled to maintain her body's delicate chemical balance. From her position on the ground, Zara could see the wreckage of her ship. It would never fly again. Parts and pieces were scattered across the impact zone, some still smoking from the crash. The setting sun gave everything a strange orange glow. 5% power. Darkness crept into the edges of her vision. Zara thought of her squadron back home, of the commander who had entrusted her with this vital mission. She thought of all the worlds that would suffer if the Krell surprise attack succeeded. In her final moments of consciousness, Jack Miller had seen enough crashes in his time on Frontier's Edge to know what the streak of fire across the evening sky meant. Another ship had met its end on their harsh little planet. As the colony's best mechanic, it was almost his duty to check it out. Good parts were hard to come by this far from the trade routes. He loaded his tool bag into his old rover and headed toward the crash site. The colony's administrator, Susan Grant, called after him on the radio. "Jack, we don't know what came down. Out there. Could be dangerous. Wait for the security team." Jack smiled and turned down the volume. By the time the security team got organized, the best salvage would be picked over by other scavengers. Besides, he worked best alone. The crash site was easy to find. A long scar of disturbed earth leading to a crumpled mass of metal that didn't look like any human ship he'd ever seen. Jack approached cautiously, scanner in hand to check for radiation or dangerous chemicals. The readings came back clean, so he moved closer. That's when he saw her, a figure in some kind of damaged armor sprawled on the ground near the wreckage. Not human, that was clear immediately. The armor had an elegant, organic look to it with curves and joints that reminded Jack of insect shells. "Hey there," Jack said, kneeling beside the alien. "Can you hear me?" No response. Jack examined the armor more closely, noticing the flickering lights that suggested some power remained. He'd never seen technology quite like it, but after 15 years fixing everything from mining drills to atmospheric processors, he recognized life support systems when he saw them. The alien's helmet was partially transparent. Inside, Jack could make out a face with 4 large, now-closed eyes and skin that looked like fine blue scales. The creature appeared to be female, though with aliens it was hard to be sure. "You're in bad shape," Jack muttered, running his scanner over the armor. "But I think I can help." He gently lifted the alien, surprised by how light she was even in the armor, and carried her to his rover. Several colonists had gathered at the edge of the settlement, drawn by the crash. "Jack, what are you doing?" called Bill Young, the colony's doctor. "Is that an alien?" "She's hurt," Jack replied simply. "Her suit's failing." "You can't bring that thing into the colony," said Karen Peters, one of the security officers. "It could be dangerous, or carrying diseases." Jack carefully placed the alien in the back of his rover. "She'll die if I leave her here. Her armor is the only thing keeping her alive, and it's running out of power." "How do you know it's a she?" Bill asked, approaching cautiously. "Just a feeling," Jack said. "Look, I'm taking her to my workshop. You can check her out there, Bill, if you want, but I'm not leaving her to die." Karen stepped forward, hand on her weapon. "The colony rules say—" "I know what the rules say," Jack interrupted. "But we're humans, aren't we? We help people in trouble. That's what we do." Karen hesitated, then stepped aside with a sigh. "On your head be it, Miller. But keep that thing contained." Jack drove through the colony to his workshop on the far side. A large, converted storage unit filled with tools and parts from a dozen worlds. He cleared space on his workbench and carefully laid the alien down. Bill arrived moments later with his medical kit. "I don't know the first thing about alien physiology, Jack." "Focus on the armor," Jack said, already connecting diagnostic tools to the suit's external ports. "It's keeping her alive somehow. We need to understand how it works before it fails completely." The displays on Jack's equipment lit up with unfamiliar symbols and readings. The armor was incredibly complex, part mechanical, part biological. But underneath all the alien technology, Jack recognized basic principles: life support, power distribution, environmental controls. "I think I can rig up a power source to keep her systems running," Jack said, already gathering parts. "At least until she wakes up and can tell us what she needs." The alien's 4 eyes suddenly snapped open, all of them fixing on Jack. She made a harsh sound and tried to move, but the armor had locked up. "Easy," Jack said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe. I'm trying to help you." Era heard something approaching, footsteps crunching on rocky ground. A shadow fell over her. She tried to reach for her weapon, but her armor had locked up completely. Her translator picked up unfamiliar words in a language she didn't understand. The last thing she saw was a human face staring down at her with an expression she couldn't read. 2 eyes, not 4, like her kind. No protective scales, just soft skin that looked so vulnerable. How did such fragile creatures survive in this harsh universe? As consciousness slipped away, Zara had one final thought. This desolate mining colony would be her grave, her mission incomplete, her people unwarned. She had no hope left. Zara tried to move again, but her armor remained frozen. Her 4 eyes darted around the unfamiliar room, taking in the scattered tools and machine parts. This was not a medical facility or a detention center. It looked like some kind of repair shop. The human male stood nearby, hands still raised in what she assumed was a peaceful gesture. A second human with a medical scanner hovered anxiously by the door. "Power. My armor needs power," Zara managed to say, her translator struggling to convert her words. The human nodded and picked up a cable. "I thought so. I've got a temporary connection ready, may I?" Zara hesitated, Allowing an unknown alien access to her armor systems went against every protocol she had been taught. But her suit was already at critical levels. She had no choice. "The port is on the back, near the base of the spine," she said. The human gently turned her and located the connection point. He attached his cable, and immediately Zara felt a surge of energy flow into her systems. The armor's displays began to reboot, and she could move her limbs again, though stiffly. "I'm Jack Miller," the human said, stepping back to give her space. "This is Bill Young, our doctor. I am Zara, scout commander of the Thalaxian fleet." She sat up slowly, testing her armor's functions. "Why did you help me?" Jack looked confused by the question. "You were dying. Why wouldn't I help?" "This simple?" Answer puzzled Zara. Among her people, such assistance would only be offered if there was strategic value or political advantage to be gained. The humans seemed to have acted purely out of, what? Compassion? A foreign concept in Thalaxian culture. "Your armor is fascinating," Jack said, changing the subject. "I've never seen anything like it. It's part of you, isn't it?" Zara nodded. "Thalaxians cannot survive long in most atmospheres without our armor. Our homeworld has a very specific environmental composition." "That explains the life support readings," Bill said, looking at his scanner. "Your suit is essentially a mobile ecosystem." Jack pointed to several damaged sections. "These parts are failing. I can see microfractures in the outer shell, and these joint servos are completely shot. Without my armor at full function, I will die," Zara stated flatly. "And my mission will fail. The Krell will succeed in their surprise attack on the Coalition worlds." Both humans stiffened at the mention of the Krell. "The Krell? They're planning an attack?" Jack's voice had changed, grown harder. "I was carrying intelligence to Coalition Command when my ship was attacked," Zara explained. "The Krell have gathered a fleet near the Cygnus Rift. They plan to strike 3 days from now." Jack and Bill exchanged glances. "The nearest Coalition outpost is 5 days away by our fastest ship," Bill said quietly. Zara's hope, briefly rekindled by the power to her armor, faded again. "Then I have failed. Millions will die." Jack was examining her armor more closely now. "Maybe not. We might be able to get a message out on the deep space relay, but it's been malfunctioning for weeks." He tapped the damaged sections of her armor thoughtfully. "More importantly, I think I can fix this. Some of these components are similar to our mining equipment. Others I can salvage from your ship." "You?" Zara couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. "This is advanced Thalaxian technology. It takes our engineers years to learn its systems." Jack smiled for the first time. "Lady, I've been fixing things no one else can fix since I was 12. This is just another puzzle." He began gathering tools and parts. "Bill, go update Susan and see if Alan is around. I could use his help." After Bill left, Jack turned back to Zara. "Why were the Krell chasing you specifically? What's on that data crystal I saw in your armor compartment?" Zara was surprised by his observational skills. Detailed info spread quickly through the small colony. By evening, Susan Grant, the colony administrator, arrived at Jack's workshop with a stern expression and 4 security officers. "Jack, we need to talk," Susan said, eyeing Zara warily. "Privately." Jack wiped his hands on a rag and followed Susan outside. Through the workshop window, Zara could see them arguing. The human female pointed at the workshop several times, her face tight with concern. While they talked, another human entered the workshop. He was older than Jack, with gray hair and a limp in his right leg. "So you're our visitor," he said, studying Zara with open curiosity. "I'm Alan Peterson." Jack asked for my help. "You are also a mechanic?" Zara asked. Alan laughed. "Military, engineer retired. Served 20 years fixing everything from dropships to battle armor. Nothing as fancy as yours, though." He walked around her, examining the damaged sections of her armor with a professional eye. "Interesting design. Reminds me of the adaptive systems we were developing before I left service." The door opened and Jack returned looking annoyed. Susan followed him in. "Commander Zara, Susan said formally. I'm Susan Grant, Administrator, Frontier's Edge. Your presence here puts our colony at risk. Susan, Jack started, but she held up a hand to silence him. The Krell don't recognize our neutrality, Susan continued. If they find out we're harboring someone they're hunting, they'll destroy our entire colony. They will destroy your colony. Anyway, Zara replied. The Krell intend to eliminate all human outposts in this sector as part of their attack. That is in the intelligence I carry. Susan's face paled. Are you certain? Zara nodded. I saw the battle plans myself. They consider humans to be unpredictable and dangerous to their expansion. Susan turned to Jack and Alan. How long to fix? Her armor. Jack glanced at Alan, who shrugged. 3 days with luck, maybe 4. You don't have 4 days, Susan said sharply. I'll give you 2. After that, she needs to be gone, one way or another. After Susan left, Jack, Alan, and Zara moved the operation to an abandoned mine shaft on the colony's edge. They brought power generators, tools, and parts salvaged from Zara's ship. Susan's not wrong to be worried, Alan said as they set up their makeshift workshop. The Krell wiped out New Haven colony last year. 3,000 dead. Jack nodded, grimly. My wife was there visiting her sister. Zara hadn't expected this personal connection. You lost your mate to the Krell, yet you still help me? Helping you might stop them from doing it again, Jack said simply. Working through the night, Jack and Alan carefully disassembled the damaged sections of Zara's armor. The process required Zara to disconnect from certain systems temporarily, leaving her feeling vulnerable. It was a strange sensation, putting her life in the hands of aliens she barely knew. This power regulation system is unlike anything I've seen, Alan said, examining a crystal component. It's almost organic. It is, Zara confirmed. Grown, not manufactured. Our technology merges biological and mechanical elements. Jack held up a mining tool. This laser cutter uses a similar crystal matrix to focus energy. Different application, same principle. He began adapting the mining tool to replace the damaged regulator. Zara watched with growing amazement as Jack's hands moved with confident precision. He seemed to intuitively understand how her technology worked, despite never seeing it before. You're using human mining equipment to repair Thalaxian military technology, she observed. My people would say that's impossible. Jack smiled as he carefully integrated the human component into her armor. Humans have a saying too, necessity is the mother of invention. A sudden noise from outside silenced them. Alan moved to the mine entrance and peered out. We've got company, he whispered. Krell's scout ship just landed at the colony center. Zara felt a chill run through her. They've tracked me here. They can't find you, Jack said firmly. We need to speed this up. He turned to Alan. Get the rest of the parts we need from my workshop. Use the back tunnels. As Alan slipped away, Jack turned back to Zara with determination in his eyes. They won't stop us, I promise. Formation on their fleet positions and attack plans, I obtained it at great cost. Jack nodded slowly. Then we'd better make sure that sacrifice wasn't wasted. Let's get to work. He held out a hand to help her. Stand. A human gesture Zara didn't understand but cautiously accepted. You really think you can repair Thalaxian armor with human tools and salvaged parts? She asked. Jack's eyes lit up with a determined spark. I don't think, Commander Zara. I know. The Krell patrol moved through the colony with cold efficiency. 6 soldiers in black armor, led by a commander whose helmet bore red markings. They carried scanning devices and weapons that made the colonists step back in fear. Susan Grant met them in the colony's central square, keeping her face calm despite her racing heart. Welcome to Frontier's Edge, she said. How may we assist you? The Krell commander's voice came through a translator, flat and emotionless. We track a fugitive, a Thalaxian spy whose ship crashed near your settlement. Harboring this criminal is an act of war. We've seen no aliens here, Susan replied. Just miners and farmers. We will search your colony, the commander stated. It wasn't a request. Susan nodded stiffly. Of course, we have nothing to hide. As the Krell began their search, Bill Young hurried through the back tunnels of the old mine network. He found Jack and Zara working frantically on her armor, components spread across a makeshift workbench. The Krell are searching every building, Bill panted. They have bioscanners that can detect Thalaxian life signs. Jack looked at the partially disassembled armor. We need more time. We don't have it, Bill said. Alan got caught trying to return with those parts you needed. He's stalling them, but they'll be here soon. Zara stood even though sections of her armor hung loose. I should surrender myself. Your colony shouldn't suffer for my mission. No, Jack said firmly. Too many lives depend on that data crystal, and they'll kill you. He looked around the cave, thinking fast. The old vertical shaft. It leads to the deep mining levels. The mineral deposits down there interfere with scanners. Bill nodded. It could work, but how will you finish the repairs? Jack quickly gathered essential tools and components. We'll have to improvise. Help me move everything. They relocated deeper into the mine, descending an ancient ladder to a cavern lined with glittering blue-green crystals. The air was damp and cold, but the natural formation provided perfect cover from Krell technology. These crystals, Zara said suddenly, touching the cave wall, they're similar to what we use in our power regulators. Jack examined the crystals, then looked back at Zara's damaged armor components. Could they work as replacements? Possibly, Zara said, but they would need precise calibration. Jack carefully chipped away several crystal formations. Then let's try. Above them, they could hear the faint sounds of the Krell search party entering the mine system. Time was running out. Jack worked with intense focus, fitting the natural crystals into Zara's armor systems. His hands moved with remarkable precision despite the dim light and pressure. Zara watched him, fascinated by his ability to adapt and improvise. Why do you try so hard to save me? She asked quietly. Your people barely know mine. We have no formal alliance. Jack didn't look up from his work. Because it's the right thing to do. Even if it costs you your life? Some things are worth that price, Jack replied. The sounds of Krell soldiers grew closer. Bill looked nervously at the shaft entrance. They're coming this way, he whispered. Jack connected the final components of Zara's armor. It's not perfect, but it should work. Try it. Zara activated her systems. The armor hummed to life, power flowing through the improvised circuits. The display inside her helmet flickered, then stabilized. Not all functions were restored, but the essentials worked. Functional, she said with genuine surprise. How did you know this would work? I didn't, Jack admitted. But sometimes you have to take a chance. A beam of light suddenly shone down the shaft. Krell voices echoed above them. They found the shaft, Bill warned. Jack handed Zara her weapon. Salvaged for Zara hesitated, then made a decision that went against all her military training. No, I will not leave you behind. Jack looked surprised. Your mission will fail if I run now, Zara said. My armor is still not fully operational. I need more repairs to reach the nearest coalition outpost. She examined the cave around them. We fight together. Bill moved toward the far tunnel. I'll get help. As Bill disappeared, Zara and Jack prepared for the Krell. Jack rigged the mining equipment into makeshift traps while Zara checked her weapon systems. Your armor's shield capability is still offline, Jack said, examining a damaged section. But I might be able to fix that. He pulled components from his own equipment, parts, from his scanner, his communication device, even the power cell from his mining helmet. Working quickly, he integrated them into Zara's armor. This isn't how Thalaxian technology works, Zara observed. Jack smiled. It's how human technology works. We use what we have. The sound of Krell soldiers climbing down the shaft grew louder. Jack connected the final wire to Zara's armor. Try it now, he whispered. Zara activated the system. A faint blue field flickered around her, then stabilized. The shield was weaker than standard Thalaxian shields, but it worked. Impossible, she murmured. You created a compatible shield with mining parts. Not impossible. Just improbable, Jack replied. Now let's test it. The first Krell soldier appeared at the shaft entrance. Jack triggered his trap, a mining explosive that collapsed part of the tunnel. The cave shook with the blast, dust filling the air. More Krell poured in, through other access points. Zara engaged them, her weapon firing with precision. Jack stayed behind her, using the mining drill as an improvised weapon. The hybrid shield on Zara's armor absorbed the Krell energy weapons better than she expected. Something about Jack's human design confused the Krell targeting systems. Their weapons are calibrated for standard shields, Zara realized. Your modifications created something they haven't encountered before. 3 Krell soldiers surrounded them, weapons raised. Zara prepared for the end when suddenly the cave filled with blinding light. The colonists had arrived, led by Alan and Susan, wielding mining lasers and improvised weapons. In the chaos that followed, the Krell found themselves outmaneuvered in the tight cave system. The colonists knew every tunnel and passage, using their knowledge to separate and confuse the alien soldiers. When it was over, the Krell commander lay wounded on the ground, his soldiers either captured or retreated. Susan stood over him, mining, laser in hand. "You attacked peaceful colonists," she said coldly. "That violates even your own laws of engagement." The Krell commander's translator crackled. "You harbor an enemy of the Krell Empire. We protect those who need protection," Susan replied. "Remember that when you report back." She turned to Jack and Zara. "You have 1 day before their ship reports back to their fleet. Make it count." Back in Jack's workshop, Alan and Jack worked with new urgency to complete Zara's armor repairs. Now they had help from other colonists, each contributing their skills. A farmer who understood irrigation systems helped fix the armor's cooling circuits. A medical technician assisted with the life support calibrations. Zara watched in amazement as the humans collaborated, each bringing different knowledge to solve what her people would consider an impossible problem. "Your species works together in strange ways," she observed to Jack. "No hierarchy, no designated roles." "We just do what we're good at," Jack replied, fitting a replacement joint servo crafted from mining equipment parts. "Everyone has something to contribute." As the hours passed, Zara's armor gradually returned to functionality, though not in ways any Thalaxian engineer would recognize. Human ingenuity had transformed it into something new, a hybrid of technologies. "Try walking now," Jack said, stepping. Back, Zara moved across the workshop. The armor responded smoothly, even better than before in some ways. "The balance is different," she noted, "but improved." Jack nodded. "I redistributed the weight. Humans may not have your technology, but we understand mechanics pretty well." Zara flexed her arms, testing the new servos. "My people would never believe this possible. Human mining parts should not be compatible with Thalaxian military systems." "Should and can are different things," Jack said with a smile. "Sometimes the impossible just needs a fresh perspective." "I'm her ship." "You need to go. There's another exit that leads outside the colony perimeter. Bill will show you." "What about you?" Zara asked. "I'll buy you time," Jack said, picking up a mining drill. "That's suicide," Zara said. Jack smiled grimly. "Maybe, but your mission matters more than one mechanic." For the first time in her life, Zara felt something unfamiliar, a deep respect for another species. This human was willing to sacrifice himself for her mission, for people he would never meet. "I won't forget this, Jack Miller," she said. Night fell over the colony, but no one slept. The captured Krell soldiers were secured in the storage facility. Their commander, though wounded, had managed to send a partial message to his ship before being taken. Everyone knew what that meant. "They'll send more," Susan said during the emergency meeting in the colony hall. "A lot more." Jack looked at the worried faces around him. "How long do we have?" "Their nearest battlecruiser could be here by morning," Zara answered. She stood at the back of the room, her repaired armor drawing curious glances from the colonists. "We should evacuate," someone suggested. "There's no time," Alan countered, "and nowhere to go. The nearest colony is 2 weeks away." Susan turned to Zara. "What would you do if this was your outpost?" Zara hesitated. Thalaxians would likely sacrifice the outpost as a strategic loss, but these humans thought differently. "Fight," she finally said. "But not in the way you imagine," she explained, her plan using her armor's projector to show a tactical display. "The Krell follow strict protocols. If we can convince them this colony has coalition protection, they might retreat to regroup rather than risk a major incident." "How do we do that?" Susan asked. Jack stepped forward. "We fake it. Make them think we have defenses we don't actually have." Over the next few hours, the entire colony mobilized. Mining equipment was modified to look like military hardware. Atmospheric processors were reconfigured to emit signals that would appear as defensive systems on Krell scanners. Children and those unable to fight were hidden in the deepest mine levels. Jack worked with Zara to create the most important deception, modifying the colony's communication array to mimic a coalition defense grid. "Will this really fool them?" Jack asked as they made the final adjustments. "Temporarily," Zara replied. "They're cautious about engaging what they perceive as superior forces." Dawn approached, and with it came the Krell response, a battlecruiser entering orbit, its size, making the colony feel tiny and vulnerable. Jack and Zara stood on the colony's perimeter, watching the sky brighten. Her armor was now functioning at nearly full capacity, thanks to his human ingenuity and the parts from her ship. "If this doesn't work," Zara said quietly, "I want you to know that you've changed how I see humans. My people were wrong about you." Jack smiled. "We get that a lot." The Krell ships deployed fighters that circled the colony, scanning their defenses. The fake systems Jack and the colonists had created sent back signals that made the colony appear far more defended than it actually was. A message came through on all communication channels. "This is Commander Drex of the Krell Empire. Surrender the Thalaxian spy and the stolen data, or we will destroy your settlement." Susan looked at Zara and Jack, who nodded. She activated the response they had prepared. "This is Administrator Grant of Frontier's Edge, a protected coalition outpost. Your actions constitute a violation of Treaty Section 47. Our defense grid is activated, and coalition reinforcements have been notified." Long seconds passed. The Krell fighters continued to circle. "They're not buying it," Bill whispered. Then unexpectedly Zara stepped forward. She activated her armor's communication system, which Jack had enhanced with parts from the colony's main transmitter. "This is Scout Commander Zara of the Thalaxian fleet," she broadcast. "Your illegal pursuit of a diplomatic courier has been recorded and transmitted to Coalition Command. Withdraw now or face the consequences." She nodded to Jack, who activated their final deception, a series of energy signatures designed to mimic approaching coalition ships. On the Krell scanners, it would appear that reinforcements were arriving from multiple directions, when in reality, it was just cleverly modified mining signals bouncing off the planet's unusual maw. The colony buzzed with activity as everyone focused on one goal: getting Zara's message to the coalition. They had managed to trick the Krell temporarily, but their Yador deception wouldn't last long. "The deep space relay is still our best option," Jack said as he, Zara, and Alan examined the colony's communication center. "But it needs repairs." Alan pointed to the damaged relay components. "The focusing array is shot. Without it, we can't reach beyond this system. Can we fix it?" Susan asked. Jack looked at Zara's armor thoughtfully. "Maybe. The communication system in your armor, it uses similar principles, just on a smaller scale." Zara nodded. "It could work, but my armor would be permanently altered. I would lose long-range communications." "But the message would get through?" Susan pressed. "Yes," Zara confirmed. Without hesitation, Jack and Alan began carefully removing components from Zara's armor. They worked side by side with Zara, creating a hybrid system that merged Thalaxian technology with the human relay. "This goes against everything I was taught," Zara said as she watched her armor being modified again. "Thalaxian technology is not meant to be shared or adapted." Jack paused his work. "Sometimes the old rules don't apply. Sometimes you have to try something new to survive." By midday, they were ready. The modified relay stood ready to transmit. powered by both the colony's generators and energy from Zara's armor systems. The data crystal containing the Krell battle plans was connected to the transmitter. "Ready?" Jack asked. Zara nodded and activated the sequence. Energy surged through the combined systems. The relay hummed, then screeched as power levels climbed, beyond safe limits. "It's overloading," Alan warned. "Hold it together," Jack urged, manually adjusting cooling systems. The transmitter glowed with heat as it fired the message into deep space, aimed at the nearest Coalition outpost. Seconds stretched into minutes as the data transferred. "Transmission complete," Zara finally announced. The relay system sparked and went dark. Parts of it melted from the strain. A cheer went up from the gathered colonists. The warning was out. Now they just had to survive. "Krell ships are returning," Bill reported from the scanner station. 3 cruisers this time," Jack turned to Susan. "We need to evacuate now. Our trick won't work twice." The colony sprang into action, loading essential supplies onto the few transport ships they had. There wasn't room for everyone, but they would send those most vulnerable first. As the evacuation began, Zara stood with Jack at the edge of the landing field. "I should leave," she said. "They want me. If I go, they might spare your colony." Jack shook his head. "They know we helped you. No one gets left behind now." A distant rumble shook the ground as the first Krell ships entered the atmosphere. "Jack," Zara said suddenly, "the modifications you made to my armor, they affected more than just the systems. They changed how I think." "What do you mean?" Jack asked. "Thalaxians connect deeply with our armor. It shapes our thoughts, our culture. By rebuilding it with human parts with your approach to problems." She paused. "You've shown me a new way to see the universe." Before Jack could respond, a brilliant flash lit up the sky. Not from Krell weapons, but from ships dropping out, of faster-than-light travel. Coalition ships. They got the message, Jack breathed. 6 Coalition warships appeared in orbit, immediately engaging the surprised Krell cruisers. On the colony's communication system, a message played. "Frontier's Edge. This is Admiral Reyes of the Coalition Fleet. We received your warning and data. Hold tight." The battle in orbit was brief, but decisive. The Krell, outmaneuvered and unprepared, retreated after losing 1 cruiser. When the Coalition landing ships touched down, Zara stood tall in her rebuilt armor, part Thalaxian, part human, wholly unique. The Coalition officer who approached them looked at Zara's modified armor with surprise. "Commander Zara, your transmission saved billions of lives. How did you manage to send it?" Zara looked at Jack and the gathered colonists. "I had help from humans who taught me that hope can be built from broken parts." She removed a piece of her original armor and handed it to Jack. "My people give this only to those we consider family. You are the first human to receive this honor." Jack accepted the gift, understanding its significance. "What will you do now?" Zara looked up at the Coalition ships. "Tell my people about humans, about how they turned impossible into possible, and how one mechanic with mining tools changed the course of a war." Kinetic field. The Krell fighters abruptly changed course, returning to their cruiser. The massive ship began to move away from the planet. "They're retreating," Susan said in disbelief. "For now," Zara cautioned. "They'll be back once they realize." The deception. Jack checked his timer. "But we've bought ourselves 12 hours at least, enough time to finish what we started." He turned to Zara. "We're going to complete your mission.